Got another coil for you. But before we get into it, gotta give a shout out to Yosh. Or is it Yosh? His name's right here. If you're watching this, brother, I appreciate it, man. Saw this last night, so I thought I'd give it a try. And I'll tell you what, this coil has surprised the hell out of me. And Yosh is the creator of this coil. So shout out goes to him. Thanks again, brother. So here's what you're gonna need to build this bad boy. You're gonna need 6 to 8 inches of 32 gauge Kanthal, 30 gauge Kanthal, 28 gauge Kanthal, and 0.5 millimeter flat ribbon wire, a pair of pliers, a 5/64 drill bit or something equivalent to a 5/64 drill bit, woo, and a Tachi drill, a torch, and a pair of nail clippers or scissors. What you're going to want to do is take all strands of different gauge wires, ribbon wire, etc. All 4 wires. You're going to want to line them up evenly. Make sure they're clipped on either side evenly as possible. One side just like that, the other duplicate. And then on this one side is manually start to twist these wires together, okay? Just on this end. Next step, insert that manually twisted end into the drill. Once you've inserted those manual twists in between the 4 clamps, give her a good tighten. Oh yeah. All right, so that's what we want right there. And then all we're gonna do is fold it just a smidge on this one end, okay? Just like that. Once I've gotten the slack out, I'm gonna take my pliers and pinch that folded end. Okay, just like that. Alright, the biggest key here is that all strands are completely slackless. There's no slack in the strands. There can't be any slack in the strands. If there is, your coil is just going to kink up on you. All the slack's got to be taken out. And what we're going to do is we're going to twist it very slowly. Okay, stop and go type thing. And then you want to go until right before you start to kink. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Oop. We're getting right. And that's where we're going to stop, right there. Once we've got our wire, we're just going to clip the ends. Make sure when you're clipping it, it's far from your face. Look away. Clip. Same thing on the other side. There's your Agro wire right there. Next step, we're going to clamp the end of this Agro wire down with the pliers. And we're going to torch it. And what that does is it gets the springiness out. I'm going to go back and take it once back. Make sure you let it cool off. Alrighty, so now we're going to take it down. I'm going to show you guys how to wrap this bad boy. So using your 5/64 drill bit, you're going to want to do 7 wraps. And you're going to want to make sure those wraps are as close together as possible. Even those coils out a little bit. So there is an Agro Coil. What I like to do is make sure that one lead is a little bit longer than the other, just because it makes it easier to insert into your RDA. Okay, the RDA we're going to be using today is the Atomic by MCV, and the mechanical mod we're going to be using is the Big Nasty by Tatro Mods. I'm going to go ahead, insert the longer lead in the negative post. Once we've got those leads inserted, we're going to go ahead, tighten her down. Clip the leads. Now we're going to make sure that all the coils are glowing evenly. So we're going to heat them up just a little bit, and then we're going to tap on them, pinch them together. You want them glowing from the inside out. Oh yeah. She's going to be a beaut. And then what I like to do is reinsert the rod that I'm using, or the drill bit that I'm using, because I find that it evens out the coils a little bit more. Take the rod out. Oh yeah, and that's what you want. So now I've got my organic cotton. Gonna slide that through the Agro Coil. Pull that through. You want to make sure that it's just a perfect fit. It can slide in and out. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to tuck this tail underneath the coil. Tuck this in the cup. Put a little juice on there. Get her nice and saturated. Oh, look at that fire up. Let's go ahead and take it back to the original screen. See how she vapes. Alright, so I got this Agro Coil in this atomic RDA on the big nasty. This is a 7 wrap on a 5/64 drill bit, and the resistance comes out to 0.5 ohms. Now before I vape on this bad boy, there are a few things I gotta tell you. There's 3 batteries that I recommend. One, the Sony VTC3. It's a 30 amp, 1600 milliamp hour battery. And then 2, the Sony VTC4. And the VTC4 is a 2200 milliamp hour, 30 amp continuous battery. Both those batteries are 30 amp continuous batteries. Now with this 0.5 ohm wrap, it's pulling 7.5 amps. The battery I have in here is the 3rd battery that I highly recommend, and that is the MNKE. The MNKE, it's a 26650 battery, and it's a 20 amp battery. Those are my go-to batteries for sub-ohming. The 3 that I just mentioned are your cream of the crop, IMO. But realize this, no matter how safe you may think things are, the quality of the equipment you're using, the quality of the battery, you're doing this at your own risk. And for any newbie rebuildable out there watching this, I do not recommend jumping into the deep end and doing your mega low ohm coils. You gotta know what you're doing, you gotta know the safety, you gotta know your equipment, and there are risks. Even if you're using the safest equipment, there are risks. I just want you guys to know that. That being said, I got a 0.5 ohm Agro Coil on there. Let's vape on it and talk about it. Woo-hoo-hoo! Well, the density of the vapor is thick. Chucking it! With all these coils, you're going to get kick-ass vapor, you're going to get hellacious flavor, you're going to get a monstrous throat hit, or lung fill as I call it. But there's different aspects and there's different perks to different coils. In my previous videos, I talk about how the flat ribbon wire really brings out those crisp notes in some of your juices. Well, only 25% of this wire or coil is made up of that flat ribbon wire, and I tell you what, it really does go a long way. The beauty of this is this coil really brings out those crisp notes, but at the same time 3/4 of the other coil or wire is made up of regular Canthal, which really brings out the density. I mean, you've got that 28 gauge, and 28 gauge is known for its density, its thickness, its thick flavor. In my experience using the 28 gauge and even the 30 gauge, if I were to vape those custardy, creamy juices, the tobacco juices, the stuff with the rich, deep undertones, that 28 gauge and even the 30 gauge intensifies those notes even more. Well, with this coil, you have everything combined, and it surprised the hell out of me. It really did. Goodness gracious. I do notice with this coil though, if I put 7 drops in, I'm only going to get 3, 4, maybe even 5 at the most pulls before it starts to dry out. So that, my friends, is the Agro Coil. I hope that helped. I highly recommend it. Give it a shot. You guys be the judge. Let me know what you guys think of this bad boy. This is Rip Trippers. Remember, smoking is dead, vaping is the future, and the future is now.